Hi, this is Dee-Dee Devon of Divine Intervention, Lifestyle, and Nutrition Health Coaching, making the most of my quarantine time by sharing with you some coaching tools to overcome anxiety and fear, which seems to be the biggest challenge these days. I'm on number 7 today, which is one of my favorites. I call it the worst case scenario. Doesn't sound so great, but if you're someone who's feeling super anxious, what I like to do is walk with you through that worst case scenario. So let's go down that dark hole to the worst possible option so that you can see, like, oh, okay, what would I do in this case? And there's something about that that just calms us down because then we know we have a plan. I'm going to survive it. It's going to be okay. I remember I had a client once who said that if she gained any more weight, that her husband would leave her. So I said, well, how much weight? 50 pounds? 25 pounds? 10 pounds? How much weight would you have to gain for him to actually leave you? And then she said, well, maybe he wouldn't actually leave me, but he wouldn't like it. So I said, okay, so what would he do then? She said he'd probably hire me a personal chef and a personal trainer. And we both had to laugh and thought, not so bad. And then I said, so what if he did leave you? She said, well, then I'd feel really sad and disappointed. And then what would happen? I asked. She said her friends would come around and try to cheer her up. And then what would happen? I said. And she said, then they'd probably take her out, introduce her to some new people. And then what would happen? I said. And she said, she'd probably meet someone who loves her for exactly the way she is. So you see, win win. When you walk through the worst case scenario, you discover that you are capable of taking care of yourself in almost every circumstance. And when you're not, that's when we step into our faith because you can only have as much faith as you have fear. So if I have this much faith, I have this much fear. And that's what we're working on is eliminating, if possible, that fear or having a healthy fear. So I think that's a great one. And the truth is, the likelihood of the worst case scenario actually happening is very slim. But even if it did, I believe you can pull yourself out of it. And also to remember that it's just a story that you're telling yourself. There's the thought that you're believing and a narrative you're telling yourself that's creating a lot of anxiety and fear. So it is useful to kind of play out because sometimes it's like an open ended abyss of bad things that could happen and like they're irrational. And so sometimes when we put our attention on the worst case scenario, it does a reality check in a way. And it's useful to remember that those bad things have not happened yet. And so we can step back and say the story I'm telling myself is, and that can be really helpful in interfacing with the worst case scenario so that we don't get sucked into it. I'll be finishing up this week with just a few more suggestions on dealing with your anxiety. And if you want to catch them all, you can either find them back on this feed or go to my YouTube channel, and I'll leave that link below in the comments. They're all there. So it's really not as bad as we think. I'll see you tomorrow. Namaste.